Hello, everyone.
Hey, welcome to this show. Thank you for joining this episode. Preparing you for DP-700 certified exam.
Yeah, with a focus on monitoring and optimizing your solution.
Yes. So it's Jost and I, and in a couple of seconds, you will learn a little bit more about us.
Yeah, so my name is Just Blindbæk. I'm a data platform MVP from Denmark. And here you can find my details. I've been working with data platform solutions for many, many years. And I have also taken the journey of transition from this Synapse world into Fabric that we'll be talking about today.
So I'm Thomas, but I prefer Tom because only my wife is calling me Thomas. Is something going wrong? I'm also a data platform MVP and do this Microsoft Analytics platform, data platform stack for a lot of time. And I'm really happy for you being joining the session.
And with us, we also have some moderators.
Yes, please feel free to type your questions in the chat window, and Marcos and Ginger will happily answer these questions. So thank you very much for joining us, Marcos, Ginger, being our moderators right now.
Yeah, and please use this opportunity to get all your questions answered. We also save some time in the end, but just get your questions flowing when the session is on.
So right now it's the third session in this series, Monitor and Optimizing Solutions. Of course, you can, if you missed it, you can watch the other two sessions. And next week, Wednesday, there's a final session in this series that gets you ready for preparing the exam. If any, it's an open Q&A. And now there's also something very important coming. So maybe.
Yeah, there's this big conference coming in Las Vegas. So the Fabric Community Conference is happening end of March, start of April. And I'm so lucky to go there and also present a training day on a similar topic like this, so administrating Fabric. But there's also plenty of other training days and sessions. So really hope to see you there. Please catch me if you meet me on the hallways.
So
and we have, if you want to take this exam, sorry, Tom, you can get a discount of the DP-700 exam. Go to this URL. It's a limited offer, but you can get a half price for your exam.
So we mentioned it already. Say hi and ask your questions in the chat, please. Right. So
yeah, let's get started with the actual content here.
So this is a comparison. There has been a DP-203, and now there's the new one, DP-700. This is about focusing on Microsoft Fabric. Then what is this monitoring and optimization? Then how to monitor analytics solutions. And also we have a little bit of a live demo, how to do this, how to optimize. And then finally, more or less, it's about security, something that matters a lot to the both of us. And then finally, we have practical tips for success, how to pass the DP-700.
Exactly. So the comparison, Tom, would you take us through this?
I try. So basically, at least the colors are the same. It's blue, violet, and green. And the top one is the DP-700. We have develop and data processing. in the fabric, it's called ingest and transform, and then monitoring, optimizing solutions. There's a difference in the first part. It's about designing, implementing data storage. We cover this on the next slide, this different, and why the other one is larger. So this tells us it's design, implementing data storage. And the big difference, can you please show the other one as well? So the big difference is basically that in DP-203, we are focusing on implementing a partition strategy, but because Microsoft Fabric is a little bit more, we are also covering how to implement and manage all these things. It's also about lifecycle managing, security governance, and how to orchestrate processes. That's now a bigger space because we have SaaS platform right now with Microsoft Fabric that's combining a lot of these powerful solutions in a unique interface. And for this reason, blue is a little bit larger right here, but basically, yes. So, and now the next one is showing what is the exact difference or focus. Can you please? So here we say focus, DP-207 is focused on Microsoft Fabric instead of single Azure services, right? So, and because it's a little bit broader, we have also this will keep track in the blue one that is a little bit larger. And then primary focus is building and optimizing the solutions instead of only focusing on data storage and processing pipeline. So focus is broader, but for this, it becomes maybe a little bit more simple because it's native tooling, because everything is packaged inside Fabric. And can you please do that again?
The box, one box.
It's one box. Love that. And the target audience, of course, is the same, right? Engineering, data engineers, but they currently do not have to work across diverse Azure ecosystems. They can work with Fabric. And that's it.
Yeah. And I actually have taken both of these exams. And for me, it is more broad because data engineering in Fabric also covers, for me, the Custo engine, the KQL engine. That was a small part of the DP-203. Now it's even more, but basically, as Tom said, it is the same topics, but of course Fabric is different. And we have the next slide here, which actually is the introduction to Fabric. So Tom, take it away.
So these are the so to be honest, this is not exactly Fabric, because Fabric has been growing the last couple of months, but these are the parts that are important for the DP-700. So what is missing? It's activator, meaning the thing that is creating reflexes where you can track and online what is happening. And it's also the new one that is, I did not really know the name exactly. I call it SQL in Microsoft Fabric. Not sure if this is so this is also missing right here, but this is because it's not part of the exam. So then Data Factory, probably you know it from Azure Data Factory. Data engineering might be new, but basically it's covering the lakehouse, the Spark thing. Data warehousing is covering a lot of the Synapse world. Then we have probably also something newer because it's a little bit broader right now, the data science part, then what Josh currently mentions, the real-time intelligence part. And if someone from the Custo development team is watching this show. I'm still looking for a Custo sticker for my laptop. So this is basically real-time intelligence, Azure Data Explorer. It's a real-time intelligence thing. And of course, our beloved or my beloved Power BI. So this is basically, combined everything in a single SaaS platform with a unique user experience. So this makes it quite simple to use. But of course, it does not mean you do not can stop thinking.
No. And this, where the DP-700 is targeting data engineering. So if you look at this, then it will only be 1 out of 6, but actually the DP-700 exam is also covering data factory, data warehouse, some part of real-time intelligence. So data engineering is broader. So, and also I tend to say these are more marketing things, because personally for me, data engineering is more than just data engineering. That is in this one where it's mostly Spark engine. So just be aware that, yeah, for the exam, it's not just the Spark engine, it's much more broad.
Absolutely. So, and then of course, everything, because SaaS, everything is happening inside a OneLake, and we have already mentioned it, SaaS product experience. We have security and governance. We have compute and storage, and also, of course, business models. And then everything is Fabric.
Yeah.
One copy is a key component, but to me, it's not just the one copy thingy. It's also what this one copy is, meaning the open format. What is the data tables? Because when we are writing using these different workloads, meaning data science or data engineering, and we are writing into our OneLake, we are creating data packet files. So this is also something that makes OneLake so special, I think.
Absolutely, I fully agree. This one format we have with the Delta tables is key for this whole platform. So why should we actually care about monitoring and optimizing in Fabric? Why does it matter? And this is the third of these 3 different webcasts we have. So this is the topic of this. And it's all about what I say, to get the most out of your Fabric environment. So basically, underneath a Fabric, you have these capacities, and you are using of this capacity whenever you're using the different compute engines, the different workloads. So it's about getting the maximum performance and efficiency out of what you're using. So because you could always just and Microsoft will love that, you can just go up to a bigger FSKU if you're not caring about monitoring and optimizing. But of course we care. We wanted to understand what is happening, what is these workloads doing, and this is what we will go through for this session. And yeah, the benefits, scale, but also not just about scale. Also, you want to monitor your data. So if there's corruption or data loss, you probably need to actually be accountant and to be able to show who has accessed what at what time, and also, of course, giving a better user experience, because getting good query performance for your end users, of course, they will love that. So if you can monitor how and be more proactive when you are using so you don't, then your users coming and say, oh, it's slow. But if you can know it beforehand or know it at the same time as the users, then you can be proactive. So that is also around this, and that leads us to this automated alerts that you can actually set up inside Fabric. So monitoring and optimizing is actually a lot of different stuff inside Fabric.
So
yeah, Tom.
So maximize your fabric thingy, your capacity. Maybe you are start wondering what are these guys talking about? And maybe you are right if you have the largest available capacity, if you have one pipeline, no data flows, a single tiny semantic model refresh, and you have just a Spark job that you run every now and then, and probably because for fun. You do not care about lakehouses, you do not care about event streams, then you're probably right if you're wondering why these two guys are talking about monitoring. So I can tell you that I'm working in a company where data set refreshes are scheduled by our users. So if my colleagues are listening, listen closely right now. And they have refreshed it every 30 minutes each day because this we are running on premium. For this reason, it's possible. And people are only looking every now and then at these reports. But refreshing data every 30 minutes, maybe it's also not that important, but if you have 50,000 K data sets refreshing, and because everyone needs to have current data after lunch, most of the schedules are for 10:30, depending some. So please think about it. Watch closely how you utilize your, let's say, fabric capacity, because as you rightfully mentioned, it's about get the most of it. And now with fabric, there are so many more things we can monitor and we should do.
Exactly. So many different item types. I believe we have, these are just a few of them. Last I counted, there was over 30 different item types that you will probably need to monitor in some way.
Yeah. So it's not about wasting money. So then, of course, we have to identify what to monitor, how to collect and review data, resolve issues. Maybe if you are realizing that there is a data set refresh running every 30 minutes, and then you look how many people are using this data set and you see one, maybe you can ask your colleague, is this really that much important? So this is just one thing, how to resolve issues or optimize performance. It's not only about optimize performance, it's about stopping burning compute units for no reason.
So yeah, and what is one of the tools that we can use to monitor this, and that is the Fabric Monitoring Hub. That's a new tool for all of us coming into Fabric. We are part of the Power BI ecosystem, but this is actually something new we didn't have before Fabric came in. But it's both monitoring Fabric items and also all the new all the old Power BI items and all the new Fabric items, and what can we actually do with it? So let's jump into a demo and see. Here I have opened up the Monitoring Hub. It's actually quite easy finding it. It's down out here in your left hand. It's just called Monitor. At first, it was actually called Monitor Hub. I think most of us still call it Monitor Hub, but for Microsoft, it's just Monitor. And in here, we get an overview, and I get an overview of all what I have access to. So I might see something in this list that you don't see on the same. So all the workspace that I have access to, I will see all the items that is actually running something in here. And as you can see down in this list, I have some semantic model refreshes, I have some data pipelines that's run, and I also have some notebooks. And what I can do with this monitor is that I can actually filter. So if I'm looking for something specific, I have many options. So I can filter, show me all that has failed. This is showing me the last 30 days of failed things. And as you can see here, I both have data pipelines, semantic model refreshes, and data flows. And the good thing, if something fails, I wanted to know why did it fail. Then I can actually, depending on the item, I can go in and get more details in here around historical run details. Some of these items are then going over. If this is a pipeline, I will go over and see the pipeline and see what has happened in the pipeline. So I have much options to go very deep in this to find out why is it. But might also, one thing is failed things, but it could also be things that is running for a very long time. So I can also go in and sort on these things. So in here, okay, this is going 40 minutes. That's a long thing. That shouldn't be 40 minutes. Then I can go down and actually investigate, clicking on this notebook, finding out what was happening in here. So, and the filter box that we showed before, I can also go in and filter for different specific item types. I can search for item types. I can also search for only the last 7 days, for instance, a custom. I can also search for a specific user that is running this, and location. Location is kind of normally location in this setting is a workspace. So if I have multiple workspaces and I only want to see some of them, I can search on that and only see, okay, what's happening in this specific workspace, and then see these notebooks. And you can see up here, then the filter is coming up here. And I can also, as the last thing, yeah?
Can you zoom in a little bit? Sorry.
Sure.
Zoom in a little bit.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, zooming in, you can better see it now. Of course, it was very small before. Thank you, Tom. So coming in here, we have a lot of different columns in here. The activity name, status that we looked at before, the item type, the start time, the duration, and for different types, for instance, if it's a Spark job, I see here how many cores is actually been using on this notebooks. That is something that we are coming back to actually, and other types. And I can go also in the column option and actually add even more columns or removing some columns, getting it. This is a really good tool. I use it a lot when I go in and trying to figure out what's happening. The downside, I will say, about this tool is that it's very reactive, because I have to go in maybe every morning to see if something failed. There's no alerting feature yet in this tool. That is something that I really would love to see. The other thing that I also would love to see with this tool, and I have given my feedback to Microsoft, is that we could have an API so I can actually collect this data and store it, and maybe create my own visuals on top of it if I could import this data into Power BI, for instance. But already as it is now, we have lots and lots of functionality in here. How are you using this tool, Tom?
I don't have to, because nothing fails. Everything is running. Everything is running smoothly all the time. So to be honest, of course, this is one of my favorite go-to thing. And I do not know if I miss alerting, because I hit monitor basically every morning and looking for, oh, my last job was running extremely long. Oh, my job did not run because it failed instantly. So this is, sure, it makes sense if I have this alerting and also this collecting to have a house refresh growing in duration, because data is, so then it can also be used to identify possible loading different strategies to change that from load everything to incremental refresh or whatsoever, right?
Exactly. And then that leads us actually to the next one, another tool we have.
So this is, if you have the most capable capacity, if you have one workspace, one semantic model, one lakehouse, 4 data tables, you do not need this. If you have 2K or 20K workspaces, then maybe you want to know how this is growing over time and things like that, because it's monitoring your asset, right? And this can be really, really, really insightful because you see that Fabric Power BI is adopted or not in your organization.
Exactly. You can see that in this, how many users and how the activity is. And this is, for those of you who don't know, this tool is called the admin monitoring workspace, and where the monitoring hub that's available to everyone. Then this tool is only available for admins. So you need to have the tenant admin role. I believe it's called Fabric Administrator or Power Platform Administrator, one of those rules. Then you'll actually see a workspace in your workspace list where you can find this report. So you might not have access to it, but actually it can be shared with you. Then we have another tool, right, Tom?
Yes, and to be honest, this is my favorite tool. This is the monitoring capacity usage metrics app, because it exactly tells you what is going on your capacity. And a capacity is a large computer, as you know it, and it has resources, and resources are used. And then you can see who is using how much. I said who. This is not exactly true, because what was eating up your resources. So this is perfectly fine, because if you do something, then you need resources. But if you realize that it looks like the resources are getting burned, maybe then you should ask people, what are you doing, and things like that.
Yeah.
This is
So
my
this is
favorite.
also what yeah, and I agree totally, Tom. We can have the same favorite. I love also the monitoring hub, but this is a tool. It is quite hard to get started with. I will say it's not that easy, but it's very crucial for you to know how actually it works, and this will also give you an understanding of these capacity unit seconds. What are that? And you can find out, okay, is it the warehouse, is it the lake house, is it a notebook, is it specific workspace, how much capacity unit seconds are they actually burning on out of your total capacity. But yeah, it has a step learning curve. There's a lot of good documentation out there. I can only say, please go ahead and use it, because this is your tool to know how your capacity is used, and for that to monitor and optimize, it's a very good tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then you need to know and learn about background operation and smoothing and birthing and interactive operations uh, for you to get the most out of this. But there's a lot of really good documentation and
Oh,
YouTube videos on that.
I
And also inside the report, you have this icons help, where you can actually get some in. So what are duration? What are the meaning with the column duration? You can actually see that if you hover over the question mark in the report.
can I add something to this? How this monitor capacity usage thing is, because you mentioned the steep learning curve. If you are familiar with DAX, right? And you found the beginning difficult, but now you are able to create DAX measures that reveal a lot of insights. The same is with this monitor capacity usage metrics app. There are a couple of words I never heard before I looked the first time at this, and I was somehow, whoa. Now, still we are not friends, but it helps me a lot, because if I own 1, 2, 3, a couple of capacities, I want them to fuel things, meaning put resources to a good use and not being burned by whatsoever.
Exactly. And just a pro tip for this, if you get access to the workspace that this app is created on, you will find a semantic model in there that is feeding this report, and that this report is made by Microsoft with the best intention of creating what you will see, but you can actually go in and create your own reports on top of the semantic model. Then the learning curve will be very steep, but then you can get much more information out of this, and you can get more filter, and you can create your own visualization and so on. But yeah, that will probably be your next step.
And I know Microsoft is improving the documentation.
Exactly. So, and also improving the report. There will come more in this report. Yeah. So next up, now we have covered a lot of around the different monitoring solution and why you should monitor. Then we will look into how to optimize. So if you find out something that is not running as you expected, the duration is long, it's failing, how can you then optimize it? And there are different focus areas of around how to optimize and what to optimize. You can go in and optimize the storage. So that is basically what Tom talked about, the delta tables, and all of those lakehouse, warehouse databases is storing it in delta tables. So getting a know of that, then in you can go in on the compute engine, the Spark engine, which is one of the important computer engines when we are talking data engineering, optimizing that. And then also the processing of the events coming in, so the event stream that is part of the real-time analytics, or the pipelines that is part of the data factory. So there are many different topics that you actually can go in and optimize on. So yeah, talking about the delta tables, then you have some commands, some techniques to optimize those, like you can optimize compacting, it's calling vacuuming, and creating clustering for speeding up the queries. You can also go in and implement partitioning and caching. And this is all about speeding up actually when you query these delta tables from one of the different engines. You can also go in and optimize those on the storage. So how much does it actually cost you inside of storage? But that's probably not where you will optimize, because storage is very cheap, where compute and you're using compute when you're doing the queries, that's where you should optimize. And specific for data warehouses, you can adjust the table storage formats, and you can create column store indexes. That is a thing that we have had for many years. That's also part in here Fabric for the data warehouses that can speed up your queries. And then you have the option to monitor distribution keys and partition strategies, so that you will use the warehouse, which is a multi-node architecture, the best. Compute and processing optimization, the pipelines, there's a lot of things you can optimize with the factory pipelines. One of the key things that I tend to do, and Tom also talked about it, using incremental loads instead of full loads. So touching fewer data instead of just saying, okay, I will extract or ingest all the data every time. That's of course easy way to implement it, but it's also costing more. So if you can only load the data from yesterday or today instead of all the history data, then you can, that's a good optimization movement. And specific for real-time data, the event stream and the event house, there you can filter or you can apply aggregations, and you can also use a concept around windows. So instead of looking at the events specific, if you have, these are very much about IoT data that can be very huge volumes. Instead of looking at the different events, then maybe grouping up on for 5 minutes. That is how the windowing functions. So there's also some options there to actually aggregate it up. Then for Spark, you can optimize the cluster sizing so that you are using the optimal cluster size. And for that, we actually have a demo. So going over here again, I have a workspace. So going for that workspace, and on the workspace settings, for you have probably seen, we have got a lot of new options after Fabric came, and this list was very much shorter when Fabric came up first. Now there's more and more and more and more. And down under the data engineering tab, we have a specific tab for Spark settings. And as you can see, I go down on data engineering, and there's only one option. Probably over time, there will be more options down there since they have made this menu structure. So going into the Spark settings, one of the things we have, or the key thing about Spark, is that we have this concept around pools. If you come from Synapse, it's also called pools. I tend to call them clusters. That is what you call them in Databricks. That is the architecture beneath it. And a pool is actually many PCs or many machines underneath. And this starter pool is a fantastic pool because it is starting very quick. The name, this starter pool has some default settings, and you can actually change these default settings. So going in and clicking in here, you can adjust this. The starter pool, you can adjust in some ways. One of the ways you cannot adjust, that is the medium size. We are using these t-shirt sizes for the clusters. So it will always be a medium size. So that you have. But the auto scale, so that is how many actually PCs you are using. This is the default 1 to 10. So an auto scale is a good thing. So coming in, starting a job, it will start with 1 probably. And then if you put more work into your notebooks running on this Spark pool, it can scale. But if you wanted to be sure you're not using that much compute, you can actually put it down and then say, okay, I only want 1 to 1. So this way I optimize, I control that this specific Spark pool is not using more of my capacity than I like. And there are also some tenant setting where you can actually go in, so you don't need to do it on a workspace level. But that is one of the things that I tend to say to people: go in and adjust this. So this is a starter pool. Then you also have the option to create new pools. And if you create new pools, you can also do them in many different sizes. So in here, a new pool. And in here, you can see now I can only say memory optimized, but I can also set it into other sizes. So I can create it as small and then disable those, and doing this, calling it small. Now I have really optimized, because now I'm only using a very small amount of my capacity. Of course, then I can be in the situation where when I run a notebook, I run out of compute because I only have this much amount of compute on a small one. But I have seen so many cases where a medium size, which is the default, is way too big. You need to have a lot of data actually to run on a medium, but medium is the default for Microsoft. But now here, bring it down, small number of nodes, 1, then you will use less of your capacity. That's a pro tip for me. One thing that is the not so nice of this, now it's not a starter pool, meaning it's a custom pool, and that will mean that it will take more time when you're starting up your notebooks.
So I want to add something. Can you please make this large, please, again? Can you please switch? So there are two hearts beating in me. One, I am the owner of a capacity, one heart, and the other, I'm a developer. So, and I want, as a developer, I want as much nodes as possible. And as the owner of the capacity, I say, oh, no, please optimize your code before. Somehow this relates, or it's something in the middle. You can add tremendous money to get bad code fast, but you can also save a lot of money by optimizing your code, your pipeline, things like that. So small is not a bad thing, and of course it makes sense that medium is okay for starting. So what?
Yeah.
Please be careful with
good
your
point.
capacity.
And one thing I also wanted to show here is this. That's a relatively new setting. You can set the Spark timeout job. So every time you're using a pool and just start it up, it will run for 20 minutes. So if you go for coffee and you don't do anything, it will use your capacity for 20 minutes. So you can set it down so it will automatically end after 5 minutes, for instance, and then also save them. So going back to the slides, this was about computing and.
Please excuse me. This setting is great. So you listen to us. We said be careful, and then if you also heard, okay, I start with optimizing code, and then if you have optimized code, maybe then you should turn it down.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, whenever it's shutting down and you have a refresh whatsoever, a scheduled refresh, run a pipeline activity that is calling notebooks, then it has to start again. It's not left or right. Sometimes it's in the middle. Sometimes it's going 2 steps back and things like that. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can actually optimize on Spark and real-time and pipelines. SQL-wise, query-wise, you also have a lot of options. You can do, this is very much around the different SQL engines, so the warehouse engine, also the SQL analytic engine. You can create views, indexes, query hints. You can optimize your query patterns. You can also monitor the query plans. There's a built-in monitoring solution. We don't have time to show that, but it's also a really great tool to see which queries are running and executing on your SQL engines. And then our last topic here around security and compliance monitoring.
So I can tell you, when I started using Power BI a couple of years ago, I wasn't aware that I dive into this security governance thingy that deep as I did right now. Maybe I have improved or whatever, or my interests have shifted. I consider this very important because I believe that data is our asset. And for this reason, it should be safe. And this doesn't mean no one can access, because then nothing happens. This means provide as much data as you want, as people want, but in a safe and secure fashion. And here we see it's about Microsoft Entra ID, it's about backend capacity platform things, it's about metadata and a web front end. So, but ideally this slide is missing this thing, who is able to access your Azure resources. So every now and then I tend to ask my manager, can I please use my MacBook to access, can I bring my own laptop? No, you can't. So then, okay, when I'm traveling down south, because I live in the north, offices in the south of Germany, I always carry 2 notebooks, 2 iPads, things like that. And it's starting with who and what device is able to access. So this is also something about Azure security. But this is
exactly, and that is point to the Microsoft Entra ID. That is the front door. If you're going into the Fabric portal, into the browser, then you are authenticated with Microsoft Entra ID. So it's not everyone that can, of course, come in. It's only the people that you allow in, and they have to authenticate with the Microsoft Entra ID. And as Tom said, you can have these policies set up so you can actually say to people only from devices that we have approved can actually access Fabric. It can also be on specific IP locations, so it's only when you are in the office you can. If you are at home, you need to use a VPN to get in. So this is a really core thing, the 1 and 2 in this security thing. So who can actually come in, and then there are different other security options, looking at 3, 4, and 5. But yeah, in the interest of time, we will move on to the next slide.
Yeah. So, and here we have how this is integrated inside Fabric. It's about data is stored somewhere, meaning on a disk somewhere. Even if it's in an Azure center, data is not used. It has to be stored somewhere. And this is encryption at rest. If data is not being processed, meaning queried, transformed, or whatsoever, it's stored encrypted. So then, if I'm querying data, now from this disk to a service to my monitor, data is in transit because I'm querying data. It has to be fill my hopefully not ugly pie chart instead. I'm using this amazing donut charts, brackets, I am kidding, about donut charts. Data is in transit, and this is encrypted in TLS. So, and of course, when it's moving, you have this role-based access control that allows you to really fine-grain access to actions. If we are talking about workspace roles, as you probably know about from Power BI, a viewer can not delete your notebook, your fast performing notebook, but it's also about who is able to access what kind of items that are available.
Yeah, and as Tom said, it's very, very fine-grained that you can set up. You have probably heard around when Fabric came out, this concept around one security that is very much tied to this. Now I believe Microsoft is calling it one lake security. It's a fantastic idea that is rolling out. We have gotten some bits of it with this lake roles, I believe they are called, that you can set up, okay, who can actually access which tables in the lake house. You can also set up SQL fine-grained security on your SQL analytic endpoint in your warehouse. And as you know, if you come from Power BI, you can put row-level security on your semantic models. So you can actually, secure your data in many, many ways, and you can do it fine-grained. You have very good options for this in Fabric.
Yes, exactly. So, and this is not, now this is a little bit about compliance. So we have subsidiaries, not in Hamburg, in Germany, Munich, 2 German cities. We have subsidiaries located in different continents, and there are continents who do not allow me to store that has been generated in that country, on that continent, that this data will be stored somewhere else. It's not allowed. So we have to consider regional data storage, things like that. And this is also perfectly fine. While even if you have one Fabric tenant, if you have one lake, it doesn't mean that every data is stored on a single disk located on your desk. No, it's not. You can really fine-grain or follow your organization, even if you have one tenant. We have a lot of certifications, or Fabric has a lot of certifications. GDPR, in Germany, we are often hit by GDPR compliant requests, and I'm working for an insurance company, and there's a lot of more people asking us, how is your data stored? What are your data security pros? Blah, 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 blah. And also, then finally, private endpoints. This is also something that is the toughest level of security that you can be implement, but it's possible.
Yeah, so how do you actually monitor this different security and compliance? We have a lot of different options, and I know, Tom, you have also used some of those options in here.
I do. So activity logs, what is going on? It's not just for performance optimization. It's also about who is accessing my data. And if I have unexpected data access, how is this monitored? And maybe we should use alerts and notifications. So this is about who is accessing my data, who is processing my data, things like that. Of course, I cannot prevent that someone is taking a picture of my beautifully designed Power BI table and then ask Excel, can you please read the data from this picture? I cannot prevent this. But if I remember correctly, I was once working for a company where I had to leave my mobile phones at the counter when entering the building. So this was unexpected.
Yeah. So some of the things you have here actually is part of your admin monitoring workspace, and admin monitoring workspace is also something that is evolving. I know that there's been the thing around data access monitoring. So who has access to what? There will be a new report. I believe that's in the release plan where you can actually go in and see that. So I can say, okay, this user, what have this user's access to for my whole tenant, which is a little hard now. You can do it with querying APIs and doing your own stuff, but that will actually also be built in inside it. So yeah, that ends up the different topics around monitoring and optimizing, and we will go through some practical tips in here.
So there are a couple of trainings or sessions that provide hands-on. If you are not working with Fabric like Just and I or things like that, please do yourself a favor and at least click through these labs. There are a couple of study guides available, practice tests and things like that, and also use Microsoft Learn courses.
Yeah, Microsoft Learn, I use it a lot, and I also have my colleagues use it. There's so much content inside Microsoft Learn. I am myself a trainer, but actually it's hard to sell trainings these days because there's so much free out there as part of Microsoft Learn, and it's really good quality also with also you have labs inside that, and also samples and so on. So really good, and you can get a fabric trial. There's a link in here, so you can get started and try it on your own tenant.
Yes. So almost done, right?
Exactly. So yeah, we are done with this session. So the next session is the session on Wednesday, where it's your prepare day. So maybe you're not totally ready taking the exam, but if you are, and if you have any questions, I hope you also have asked a lot of questions inside here. Finally, as we said before, if you're coming to Vegas, I would love to meet you there. Tom unfortunately can't make it this year. There's a lot of different discounts code out here. Here you have one that will give you $150 of discount. Go for LinkedIn, go for different social media. I have seen there's also discount code for $200. And then be aware that the price will go up in a few weeks' time. And use the offer to get a 50% discount on your exam. So yeah, why not get it at half price, right? It's a limited offer. You have to put in some information in a form. Just follow the link here on the screen. And for that, Tom, we are actually having a couple of minutes left, so we can take a few questions. You can still put them in the chat. So yeah.
So waiting. So I'm currently watching the comments in the chat so that I will not miss the last final questions.
So there's a question in here. Is there a semantic model available for this capacity app? So yeah, that was the thing that I briefly touched on. There is a semantic model underneath that you can get access to if you are having access to the workspace. You will see the semantic model in there. It's not that easy to navigate the semantic model. There's a lot of tables, a lot of measures, a lot of columns, so it will take your time. The thing I have been doing is going in. If you have the workspace access, then you can edit the report that is part of the app, and from there you can save it to another workspace, and then you can go around and see the different visualization, what columns are they using, what measures are they using, and get an idea of how it's all structured together, so you can build your own. You can also just customize some of those that are already there, putting a new column, putting in a new measure, removing something. That's the way I have learned to use the semantic model that is behind the Capacity Magic app.
I call it the hard way, but I did the same. So looking forward to meeting you in Redmond during MVP Summit. Maybe we can change some metrics capacity.
Yeah, and then I can, as I said now, the third time I'm going to Vegas, I'm doing a training day there on administrating your fabric capacity. This is one of the topics around monitoring. We will also cover other topics in there. I'm doing it with my good friends Lars Andersen and Oskar.
So I can only recommend listen to these three guys. Even if they are Danes, they are great. So, and I guess with this said, if there are no additional questions, please, what's going on?
Yeah, and then please continue the conversation. There's a link in here going to the forum. There's a specific forum for the DP-700. So if you have any questions you didn't have the option to ask today, or you just come home and then you think about it, or you're preparing for the exam, then there's the specific place where you can ask your questions. So yeah, follow the link that is part of the screen here, and also joining the session in next week.
So I just read that there was a question recommend DP-200s? Do we recommend taking the exam DP-203 or DP-700? I am in the DP-700 party, and
it's a really good question. So the DP-203, that is actually an exam that will be deprecated now. Microsoft announced. So yeah, you cannot actually, I believe, take it anymore. So it will be the DP-700 that you should take. That is the one focusing on Fabric. That is the one. That is the exam. That is the here to stay. Yeah.
I love that, here to stay. I love this, everything inside this box called SAS, and it's here to stay. I love that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for listening on both me and Tom. It was nice.
Thank you very much for joining
you here. And that was all for today. Yeah.
Enjoy.